And then after that CW season, we actually have a great event, the PBA World Series of Bowling, which is a multi-event, uh, spectacular type of thing that is going to be on CBS Sports Network.
I want to be in the room that he's in because that looks like a lot of fun. Look at all the memorabilia and the posters behind me. It is Tom Clark. He is commissioner of PBA, Professional Bowlers Association, and he joins me on the Sports Media with a Human Touch podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley. Tom, it is an honor. You are commissioner. You've got a couple of moments in your schedule to talk about the events leading up to 2026 and what's looking very promising for you guys in the long running of your wonderful tour. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much. What a great introduction. And Brian, it's great to meet you. And you know, I've watched a few of your podcasts, and it's great conversations with really interesting people. And I really wish you a lot of luck with how you're moving forward as well.
I appreciate that so much. Well, first of all, when I look at the backdrop of
Yeah,
your room here,
yeah.
like how do you decide what goes on the wall?
Well, this is one of my favorite posters right here. It's the greatest 20 bowlers of the century, and most of them are autographed. And so you got kind of like a Mount Rushmore, and then a bunch of other guys that were heroes of mine growing up and have been so important to the PBA. And now what I like is that by the year we're adding people that are going to be on the future poster, and I've actually used that poster in other offices to help recruit players onto the PBA tour if they were ever even questioning whether they needed to join the PBA or just bowl globally or follow their own independent schedule, and try to articulate to them that it's success in the Professional Bowlers Association that gets you on that on that thing. And that's where you get the real credibility globally, is succeeding against the very best in the very best events. And that's what we have. And one of the great things that bowling has, versus any kind of startup sport that's been coming, is a great history and great names like Don Carter and Dick Weber and Earl Anthony and Walter Ray Williams and Pete Weber. And those names are what we're all striving for. That's the Hall of Fame, and they're the inspirational figures that have driven the sport into new generations. So that's why that one's there. It's really cool.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of pictures, I saw this picture of you. You must have been, I think it was on your Instagram. You had to have been a toddler. And it looks like you've got set up like this makeshift bowling setup here.
Yeah.
What drew you at such a formative young age to this sport? It wasn't like this was something that you all of a sudden stumbled upon. This has been in your DNA from the jump, Tom.
Yes, yeah, day one. My father is a really good bowler. I'm from Syracuse, New York. That's my hometown. Now I'm in Milwaukee. My office here is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But I'm from Syracuse, New York originally, and my dad is a really good bowler, a scratch bowler. He probably could have gone pro, maybe not at this level, but worked, and then he's in the Syracuse Bowling Hall of Fame now, and he just got inducted last year.
Wow.
And it was an honor to be there, and a lifetime achievement for him, and so you know, my mom and dad just kind of bought me plastic pins and a plastic ball, and it was a Christmas present from year one, and so I've been rolling the ball trying to knock those pins down ever since. I mean, I used to, and I'm not alone with this because I talk to a lot of people my age. I'm in my mid 50s now, and a lot of the players my age, we all kind of did the same thing as kids. Is the PBA would be on television, on ABC television on Saturday afternoon with the great Chris Schenkel and great players like Mark Roth and Marshall Holman and Earl Anthony, and we would watch the show, and we'd have this plastic bowling kit, and in our hallway during the show would bowl against the pros. And it sounds kind of goofy, but it's such a common story with people my age, and so we all really relate on it. And yeah, that video of me bowling, that's those old home videos. That was probably about 1970 or 71, and I actually went in the USBC Hall of Fame this year, the United States Bowling Congress, and they made a video for me, and they used that video in it. And yeah, it's I think a lot of people were not surprised that I had hair, as a kid. But they probably were surprised that while I would bowl, I would carry a little stuffed monkey with me, and that went on for a few
Oh,
years. So, but that's in that video. So.
in
Yeah, no,
in many
bowling, I think that it really is a sport that is part of your DNA. And there's so many great players today whose parents were in bowling and put them in bowling. And they just have this natural inclination to roll a ball and knock over pins or knock anything over. And I think it's been in the human being's DNA since Egyptian times. And that's another one of the great sell points of our sport is everybody can kind of relate to it. It's a target sport. It's a precision sport. It's fun. There's a lot of mystery in each shot, and you just are trying to knock down more than the next guy. So it's really nuanced and interesting, but at the same time simple, and has such a long history. So yeah, I've been bowling. I bowled all the way through as a kid. Was a junior bowler in a traveling league, and then I went to college in Buffalo, where there was a bowling team, and I wanted to be on that team and bowled collegiately for about 4 years, and came out and then I went into my chosen profession at the time, which was journalism, and worked pretty extensively in media all the way up to working at USA Today in the early 2000s, and that's when I started writing about bowling, for usatoday.com on the side of my real job, which was really covering golf, which was Tiger at the time. And it was all just Tiger Woods, 24 hours a day. I basically covered him. But on the side, I always tried to push bowling to mainstream media. And they allowed me to write a column on usatoday.com. And this is the early days of the internet because, we're getting up there in an age here. And, um, and the bowling industry started reading it and they started thinking, well, wait, but this guy's making some good points or criticizing what they're doing. And so I got a lot of calls from leaders in bowling and eventually they kind of recruited me and said, why don't you try to do the things that you're saying we should do as part of our industry? And it kind of came over me that I want to be involved with helping this sport, trying to save this sport and keep the competitive aspect of it alive. So I took them up on their offer one day in 2005 and left the journalism world, and that was very difficult. But it is easier to write about than actually do. I'll tell you that. But it's been a great journey ever since in the bowling industry.
But here's the thing, like you've played and you've bowled at a high level, so you have a level of respect. There's oftentimes we see in other sports where, let's say, an NBA player doesn't have a great game, and then the first thing he says is, "Well, that guy's criticizing me, and he didn't make it on his JV basketball team."
Yeah,
I feel like that's completely different than where you're coming from because you played at a high level in and through college. And so you have a different perspective than a lot of other of these journalists. But one of the things that you said earlier was how watching bowling as a child was a galvanizer for you to go out at home while the stuff is on television and practicing. And I feel like isn't that the drive of all sports is to incentivize people to go out and play on their own and not just sit there on the couch and watch? Why do you think there is this transferable quality to bowling in relation to other sports where there is more of a desire where you watch it and you're more compelled to now go out and play than saying another sport where it's fun to watch on TV, but you're not as incentivized to say, oh my gosh, I just watched that. I want to go out and bowl right now.
yeah. Well, I mean, the easy one is that you can bowl at any age and any size, and you don't have to be tall, and you don't have to be, incredibly fit. You don't have to be. You can be man, woman, boy, girl, a senior, and fit right in. And there's usually a bowling center. There's 3,000 bowling centers around the country, and there's usually a bowling center near you. And you can have this access and go play this game. So the access, the ability for anyone of all shapes and sizes to play the game, gives you that opportunity. And then the best thing about it is it's fun. And when you're playing, unlike if you were watch an NFL game and said you want to go play football, you're not going to get hit in the head. You know,
Yes.
you're going to be able to play this game and have a good time and not really get hurt. Um, but it's just very relatable, I think, to everyone. And now you can see it's kind of like golf or tennis, an individual sport as a professional sport. We have team aspects, but it's really been an individual sport. And so you don't have to have a large number of people necessarily to play the game. You can go play by yourself. And I do tell the story of when I was a kid. There was a local bowling center in Syracuse that had a great deal for anyone. Come in, bowl as much as you want all day for like $5 or something. It was this incredible summer deal. And I went and I loved bowling, of course, but I had never had this kind of opportunity. And I bowled like 16 games in a row by
Wow.
myself. And I never got bored. I never I was constantly intrigued, and I couldn't wait to do that type of thing again. And so you can play it by yourself, and then you join a league and you bowl with friends, and you can communicate and have a good time with people, all in a very good in a small location, and compete with a team and with people that are like-minded and get to know people. So it's a great social sport. It's a great individual sport, and sets up for people to say, "Hey, I'm going to go try that." And that is what motivates me. My whole thought every day is, besides trying to create, incredible events where pressure is put on the best players in the world so that it means so much to them, and that you get great competition to watch, but that you inspire people to take up the game. Because the whole key to bowling succeeding is more people bowling. And then those people would want to watch pro bowling, but also they are spending money in the sport, buying a bowling ball, buying bowling shoes and a bowling bag, and those types of partners that the PBA has are very important, as well as all the bowling centers that need the traffic. It's not like a sport like basketball or soccer that has fields at a high school or in a school. And when you play in gym class, you play that sport, and it's essentially free, for people to get into a sport and play. Now, of course, we have youth sports that are not free anymore, but you can go play it for free. But bowling is owned by independent bowling center owners, and they have to make their business go to keep these playing fields alive. And so if we can drive people into those bowling centers, we're helping the game and the PBA at the same time.
Off of what you said, and for me, having worked in local TV and calling different sports on different networks, I've noticed that personality is something that every sports league is trying to find out of their players, and some do it better than others. And one of the things that you all do extremely well is harnessing the personalities out of your athletes. How is it that you guys have done such a good job in going about that compared to, and again, I guess not to compare to others, but just from your perspective, what have been the ways in which you feel like you've done such a good job in letting people see into the minds of these athletes and their personalities and how they radiate and they're endearing to others?
Yeah, that's a great question. And coincidentally, one of our best characters today is a guy named Kyle Troop, and people know him for his afro, and he's really exciting to watch. And this weekend, I was in Louisville at his wedding. So
Oh,
I went to
wow.
Kyle's wedding and just got back last night, and he's a perfect example of what you're talking about. You know, we have a great format to present our sport in that it it's a large tournament all week with, let's say, 100 different players from all over the world competing to get into the finals, where we have five people on the finals in single matches to determine a champion each week. And once you get to those finals, and the finals is on television, it's a full 20 minutes it takes to bowl one game. And so for 20 straight minutes, you are watching a one-on-one match in bowling, and you're
Wow.
paying attention to the score, and you get to know that person. I mean, because unlike other sports, it's just them. They have nobody behind them, no teammates behind them. Anything they do is going to be up to how they throw the ball. You get to see their emotions on every single shot because there's a lot of mystery in bowling. You can throw a perfect shot and get a bad break. You can throw a bad shot and get a lucky break. And each one of those brings out a certain amount of emotion from the players. So the format alone and the way our television show works, it's kind of like a game show in a way once it gets to the finals. And you get to know those competitors. But then we try to enhance that. Of course, we mic the players up, and we were one of the first sports to ever do that, and have been doing it for decades. We've used IFB. We've been able to talk to the players while they're competing to get their thoughts. We do plenty of lane side interviews with players to get to know them, interviews with those players. But most of all, it's just watching them perform in the clutch and in pressure situations, and we create a lot of them. So even within one show, you have to win that first match to move on to the next match, and there's going to be one person who loses, and they're gone, and that's disappointment. And then the person that wins had to do something exciting to get there, get to the next person, do it all over again. We do that 4 times on a show in what we call our stepladder finals until the top seed, who earn the chance to be in the championship match, faces the person who makes his way into that match. And now you're bowling for a title and history, and the most valuable prizes in our sport. And then once you even can achieve that, you're trying to make the Hall of Fame and you're trying to have a legacy. And so we always have a great amount of things riding on what they do. So it means so much to them. And the PBA itself just has a great history. So you keep building all that and you get interesting people on these shows and you get to know them immediately. Everybody knows Pete Weber. He's the "Who do you think you are? I am" guy. Most popular, that thing it went so viral. It's incredible. Every year, it's a celebration of it. And that moment, showed how much it meant to one of the most intense competitors in the history of our game, and everybody just kind of gravitates to that kind of intensity, and it just ends up being fun.
What's fun is that they're able to be themselves out there. Like some sports, you feel like, okay, by tradition or certain rules, it's like you can't really be you. And that's what I love about what you all are doing is that these athletes are able to be themselves. And when that happens, then you're seeing people really latch on to their personalities. You've done, I've seen like pro-ams or where you'll bring in the NBA guys in years past where like a LeBron James or Chris
Yeah.
Paul will be bowling or even like from I know Mookie Betts is a good bowler for baseball fans. What have you found to be like a pro athlete in another sport, the most transferable traits to make them good at bowling?
Yeah, I think the mental game is the number one thing. Um, you know, uh, the first thing that you recognize when you're around athletes from other sports, and they get a taste of professional bowling and the best bowlers in the world at that level, is that they have they have so much respect, for the PBA bowlers, and that means a lot because bowling, one of our struggles is respect. And a lot of people just equate it with going out having fun, drinking beers, and so they just can't even see it as a pro sport. But a pro athlete immediately recognizes the series of skills and precision and practice, necessary to be a great player. And then they really recognize, and they can usually handle the pressure. And pressure is tenfold, I think, with an individual sport like bowling, because you have to be almost perfect at the most critical times. So you have to find that space between your ears, to be able to focus on the task, not be overwhelmed by a moment. And so the great athletes all have been in that position. So they understand that, and that's, I think, the thing that's transferable. Also, their competitive desire, like Chris Paul, he, I love Chris, and have really gotten to know him, and he's so competitive.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. He's competitive about every single thing that he does, and he never wants to lose. And so when you can bring that to a game where sometimes you want to be really calm to do well, and you can't let these feelings overwhelm your execution. Chris shows how you can be extremely competitive and care about that and use that to ride, to able to achieve the mental state necessary to focus. So, I think our players have learned from guys like him, and they learn from bowlers as well, and how to transfer that to their sport. One of the guys that came out, is T.O. Terrell Owens, and he's probably the greatest physical specimen maybe in the history of sports. I mean, he's close if he isn't, and he really, really worked extremely hard on trying to become a very good bowler, good coaching, got all the right equipment, did a lot of practice. And he has extreme respect because he really realized, and I put him in a few PBA events, not just celebrity pro-ams, but actual PBA events, so he could see where he stacked up versus the best in the world, and it's gonna be at the bottom. Even a great bowler like Mookie Betts, who bowled his whole life, and he is great. He bowled a 300 game in PBA competition one year. Um, Mookie still, if we put him into an event tomorrow, he's going to compete, but he's not. He's most likely, he'll prove me wrong someday, but he's not going to make. He is not going to make a cut. And he's great. He's a great player. One the best crossover star we've had. If you remember a baseball pitcher named John Burkett,
Okay.
he was an all-star. He pitched for years in the majors, Boston, San Francisco. And he loved bowling his whole life. And after his baseball career, he couldn't wait until he turned 50 to join our senior tour, our PBA 50 tour. And he doesn't miss an event. And he won a PBA 50
Wow.
national tournament against the likes of Pete Weber and Parker Bone and Walter Ray Williams and Norm Duke and the greats of the game who are now on our senior tour. And Berkey is another one that really respects the skills necessary. When he threw out the first pitch at a Rangers game a couple of years ago, he rolled it like a bowling. So, yeah.
There's so many ways people go up there and they want to pitch just to stand out, but the rolling, that's unique. I've heard the blatant throw the ball way out into, the netting or whatnot just to get attention, but to bowl it, that is, I take a lot of respect in that. You discussed pressure and how important it is to be able to handle that mentally in what can separate the great from the legends and just that key distinguisher. When you were bowling in college, how well did you feel like you handled the pressure of competition?
I don't. I mean, I would admit probably not that well. There are some things you have to do in bowling that would be simple at any time other than when there's pressure. And a lot of times I wouldn't do as well in those situations, like make a spare, make a 10 pin spare or something. I'd make it 95% of the time in practice. But in a really critical moment, those demons get in there and they go, I can't miss in this spot. And then let's say you miss one. The thing that I wasn't very good at was let that go, move on to the next. Um, I would let that bother me and think I got to get it back and I got to do. And once you start to press, it's now you're out of your game. And so, believe me, I understand the challenges, and that's why I want to always create a fair playing field and give the players the respect they deserve when they're competing, to be able to handle it and be able to be comfortable in those moments in a completely uncomfortable setting on the pro tour. So, when I bowled as a kid, I actually ran up against some players that are now PBA legends. Like Chris Barnes is one of them. He's in the Hall of Fame now. He's on our senior tour now. His son is going to be our rookie of the year this year. He's a great bowler too. But when I saw how Chris Barnes bowled in college and tried to bowl against him, it really it gave me no hope to be a professional player. It would be like being a decent college basketball player, and then you play North Carolina, and Michael Jordan is on the other team, and you watch this guy, and you go, "Well, I'll never be that good. I have no chance to ever be that good." And when you come to those realizations at a certain point, the goal of being a professional is gone. You have to be extremely unique to make it to that level. And I'll say this, it answers your other question too about why the players personalities can come out on our shows, it's the fans are extremely close. We can't really fit too many fans into a bowling center, which is one of the challenges of the PBA as a pro sport. The gate is not a revenue that we can really count on. It's because of the number of people we can get in there. But when we get them in there, they are right on top of the action. I mean, and some players like it quiet. Some players would rather it be loud all the time. Some fans would rather be quiet out of respect. Some fans would want to be having fun all the time. So we have these challenges all the time. We have certain locations that all the players know it's going to be loud nonstop. And then as soon as they as soon as they get used to that, they're fine in that situation. Then we have other places where the respect is so high, they're going to be holding their breath while they're on the lanes trying to be quiet. So you have these different atmospheres and people that are that close to you while you're trying to compete. So, we really do ramp up the heat for these guys.
I like what you said about the personality and how important that is, especially as an incentive to bring on new viewers. And when let's say a sports fan is flipping through the channels and they're like, "Huh, what is this?" And they watch a broadcast. What do you want to make sure the new sports fan who's watching for the first time, what do you want to make sure that you get across to them as a broadcast when you see new fans, TV watchers that are like intrigued and then to keep them intrigued?
Well, you want to make it clear that these are the best. You want to make it clear that you're watching the best, and then you want to make it clear how important this is to them and how rare really it is that they made it to this point. You have a few players that are regularly making into the top fives, but for the most part, it's people getting one shot and someone maybe it's their fourth time on and you don't see them that regularly. They're only that 5 to 10 people that are really always up there because they're so superior in their ability to be consistent week to week. Most people, it's their one shot, and the game is so short that you know that every single shot is important. And so as long as people know they need to win or they're out. If they can win, they're reaching a lifetime career goal, and it could be that greatest moment of their life to make it here and then succeed on TV. Now the viewer knows what's riding on this thing. And now each shot just seems more and more important. So now the side stuff that we give them, like, well, the percentage likelihood of making the spare is X, or this is how they're trying to bowl on the lane and where their trajectory is on the lane and how fast they're throwing the ball and what ball they've chosen to use and what the oil pattern is like on the lane. These are all kind of the nuances that you can then dive into later. So you tease them with that stuff because a lot of people in today's world want to learn more and get deeper into a sport and how it's played and the equipment in a way that really we didn't used to see. Before it was just make it as simple as possible. Now it's make it as deep as possible. But if you're not hooked by how important this is for the person, his family is in the crowd. There's his wife. Here's his kids, and here's where he's from. And these are the people that are rooting for him. And this is his home bowling center. And he's made it here to the PBA Tournament of Champions. And, you can build all of that. You're hooked. And now you're hooked into bowling. And now you want the guy to win, or maybe you want him to lose. And so we get lucky sometimes. And we have players who are highly personable and wear their heart on their sleeve and react to every shot. And, but then there are, like you said before, you want them to be themselves. And there are some players who you don't tell them to do that on purpose. I mean, it's got to be real. If it's not real, it's not authentic. It doesn't matter. And there are some players that are extremely reserved. And the only way they can do well is if they bring their heart rate down and keep it there. So you respect them too, but they don't give you that immediate, running around and fist pumping and things like that, high-fiving the fans. But then we have enough guys that do. And some people like one kind and some people like other kinds. So, I think it always ends up being gripping. And usually what we see, even with TV ratings through the years, is people come in, they stay. People come in early, they stay till the end. People come in the middle, they stay to the end. Our ratings always seem to go up by the quarter hour until the championship match, and that's always the highest rated part of our show. Because you get hooked on it. Now, our goal is we got to get them back next time. We got to get them to talk to people and bring more people in. Got to bring our demographics down a little bit, and get a little bit younger people involved with this game. So, and we're making really good strides in all those areas.
You are, and you said it. There's that human connection that when the uncommon sports fan who is now checking out bowling for the first time is like, what's in it for me? Okay, they have a family. They know what it's like to do something and to make their family proud. Like you said, you're personalizing these athletes, and so there is that human connection that you're forging. The other connection that I wanted to bring up, and I'm fascinated to hear how this helps you to this day with your background in journalism, in understanding that side of the industry. How does that enhance your outlook on the role you play now, especially with dealing with the athletes and what they're going through, having also played yourself and playing yourself, but then the media rights and understanding that game, having worked in the media before, and how all of these different sectors that you've had your paw prints on, how that makes you more well-rounded in what you're doing as the commissioner.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there. I think that obviously telling stories is at the heart of journalism. And so I kind of understand the idea of finding the story, and then being able to articulate that at the top and catch the viewer, catch the reader, get them to be interested, so they want to tune in because of the storylines. And so that's been very similar in television to print, and being able to latch on to what's really important. And we've really started to make winning major championships in the PBA more important, like other sports have done. Before, a few years ago, it really wasn't the absolute focus, and now it really feels like it is. And I think that that elevates certain events in a way that we've always needed to do. Um, what you mentioned something else with
Yeah, the journalism, the
oh
background
yeah,
cover.
well, you reminded me that one of the great things that I had the opportunity to do at USA Today, because that was the largest newspaper in the country. This is 2000, before the internet, before iPhones, before everything. And so we had everyone reading that paper, and it was kind of starting, it was the dialogue, and it got everybody, and everyone wanted space in our newspaper. So I had this really unique opportunity to have meetings with people like Billie Jean King, and people that ran pro bull riding, or people that ran golf, and the PGA Tour, and the commissioners. And so I had really good access to these people. And the US Open tennis, an incredible event. And so having access to those people and finding out what makes their sport tick, I always was thinking in terms of bowling and how we could transfer this type of attitude towards bowling. So the access as a journalist at a top place gave me insight into the business side of sports. And even one of my best friends at USA Today was Michael Heastand, who covered sports media. And I would talk to him every day about, what everyone's trying to do in the sports media space, kind of like what you're
Yeah.
doing. And having access to these people, rubs off on you, and then you want to, use those strategies with a sport that you love. And I want people to respect bowling. I want people to watch it. And so I kind of know, how do you get out? How did they get me as a journalist to write about their sport? How did they get me to want to come to their sport and glorify it? Well, I did spend a lot of time on that in my early part of my career. Is actually what I centered on, because I was so fresh out of working at USA Today, and I brought players on tours, media tours, and they all were very successful. And then once I became like the commissioner, and in the business side, it became more and more important. It's harder for me to do that, but we have really good PR people now. We have a great young guy named Nolan Hughes, who is kind of like me in that he loves bowling, and he has a writing ability, and he's working for us. And so I like to talk to him about, well, here's a way you can maybe get the local media to come out, or here's a way that you can promote the sport and tell the story of what we're doing in a way that will be compelling. So I think all those things are pretty important.
That's fascinating to hear. Tom, I got one more for you. Tom Clark, I feel like we could just talk for hours. I mean, this is a
That's my
really
problem. I talk too much. The
no, no, I'm learning it.
I,
I feel like people, no, this is great. I absolutely love this, and I have this penchant for wanting to listen and learn. And I know a lot of people that are have watched it, but want to know the backstory of PBA and what you guys are all about. Are now kind of like, wow, okay, this is how this is all coming together. I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about 2026 or not, but I just wanted to leave the platform there as far as what people can get excited for in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a transition year for us in that we've had a great relationship with Fox Sports for 6, 7 years now. 2018, we did a deal with Fox, and from 2019 until this year, we've been on, and it really helped the PBA. It brought us back to broadcast television a few times a year, enabled us to increase prize money. We elevated the show in different ways graphically because of their help. One of their announcers, Rob Stone, who's a great, he loves working bowling, and so we became great friends, and so it was great to have Rob back on our shows, and so now, though, we're moving in our primary partner in media to start the 2026 season is the CW. And I was just in LA and met with their whole team, with our team, and we talked about the 2026 season, and they're really pumped and they're really amped to bring bowling to their network and their audience, and how can they do it a little bit differently, and how can we schedule the season in a way that might be a little more organized than we have been in the past. So the great thing about 2026 for a lot of fans will be on every Sunday for 10 straight weeks live, starting February 22 and
Wow.
rolling all the way through April 26th with our Tournament of Champions at our most historic venue in Fairlawn, Akron, Ohio. Um, we'll start in Texas near Dallas with the Players Championship, a major championship that'll conclude on February 22nd. That'll be our first show ever on the CW. And so we're just getting amped up for that. And we'll be on 10 straight weeks on Sunday afternoons, every week at 4 o'clock. I'm working on one of those weeks because I don't think we should be on at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon against the Masters golf tournament.
You know,
There's too many, we have too many players that are great golfers that will be watching the Masters while they're bowling. We don't want that. So
yeah.
hopefully we can move up a little earlier that day. And I talked to CW about it. They were so open, and they said we'll probably do that. But other than that week, we'll be on at 4 o'clock Eastern every week. And we have not had appointment television in a long time. We've worked with ESPN and in the past, and Fox on marrying our sport with other live sports and trying to have blocks of live sporting coverage, and those are great strategies, and it made our numbers strong. But I think this will be interesting to see us be able to, for our fans to be able to just set the time. They know when we're going to be on, and we're going to be on. And then after that CW season, we actually have a great event, the PBA World Series of Bowling, which is a multi-event, uh, spectacular type of thing that is going to be on CBS Sports Network. And the championship, the World Championship of the PBA, which is the main event of the World Series of Bowling, is the PBA World Championship, and that will be on CBS, big CBS broadcast television, which will be huge. So we have two really good relationships, and I've really gotten to love working with people at both networks already. CBS, we've had a long standing relationship, but it's getting elevated next year. So yeah, we'll have a lot of content available. We're also live streamed on a network called Bowl TV
Yes.
that the governing body of bowling owns. And it's a great technology in that people can watch every single shot thrown during a tournament, every pair of lanes. And you can really get to know the players when you subscribe to this Bowl TV and follow it week to week without only being able to see the finals. So that's something that was a dream of mine because
Wow.
as a kid, as a kid, you're just waiting to find out who's the five on the show. I hope it's my favorite bowler. If not, well, I don't get to watch Marshall Holman this week. Well, now I could watch Marshall Holman all week long if I wanted to, if I have a favorite player on the PBA Tour because of the live streaming component. And in bowling, the PBA was really a leader in that. We've had different networks and started our own since the early 2000s when it was dial up. I mean, and people would dial up and be able to watch live stream PBA action. So we've elevated that through the years, really ahead of the pace of other people. So we have a great opportunity for fans to watch our finals. Now it's up to us to make sure they know where it is and make sure it's compelling so they watch every week.
Needless to say, the sport is in good hands with you as you've helped you and so many have elevated the sport. 2026, excited for that to get underway. Tom Clark, commissioner at the PBA. I'm Bryan Fenley. Tom, this was an honor to have you. Thanks so much, man. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you very much and good luck moving forward. Thanks.